So welcome to the day one of this session. We are going to learn about some facts and interesting stuff of mobile UX design actually. So the people who don't know about me, a bit of introduction about me is actually I'm Janindu Ranawake, and I work as a associate user experience lead here at 99X actually. Right, and I have contributed over 12 divided, 12 digital product designing them as a UX designer. Uh, so without further ado, I would like to uh, get to know, get a little bit brush up the knowledge of yourself around UX design. I'm sure all of some of you may know what is UX design already is, or some of you may don't know actually what is UX design is. So I'm going to give you a brief brush up, right? So what really UX design is, it's user experience design. So it is very comprehensive to you guys. The name itself says what it really is. It's all about designing experiences for users, right? So why I am telling you this again is still in the development communities and the entire IT industry. I don't think the UX design is really understood, right? So it really means about everything of these. It's about the layout, the visible interface design, and proper navigation design, and structuring the information, the content, the elements, and all about the information hierarchy and stuff like that. And also, it's about the design, how it works, and also it's about human computer interaction, the interaction between what what you are interacting with the software and the human face of that actually. And what we do is actually again user research, and we care about the usability and accessibility. So all together, if in your application or in your product, if we have considered all of these things, it will actually contribute to the experience of that particular product. So designing and concerning of that stuff is really what UX design is, right? But unfortunately, this is what we see still in the industry, right? We only focus on the building the application part of it, and we give the priority to the UX, the user experience, like this, right? It always like this. When you have the release upcoming, the UX designers are being asked to deliver the UX designs in within 2 days or with less amount of time. But that's not really how it should be, right? I'm quoting this from Steve Jobs because it's I mean, I have seen him as the only person who actually cared about these details, and that caring actually paid off with his products, right? So you can keep in your mind, even if you are guys are developers or engineers, right? Design is all about how it works, right? It's not all about how it's actually looks like. It doesn't give, looks does matter, but it should also work perfectly, right? So I'm not going to explain furthermore into the details of what UX design is, the entire domain of that. But the umbrella term, the umbrella term mobile UX design, which falls under the UX design, we will discuss about that actually, because we in this group is actually for the mobile focus team, right? So mobile UX design is like now we can't take mobile as only the mobile phone in this case. That's why we also talk about this building experiences for mobile, right? So if its definition is it's all about the design of positive experience during the use of mobile devices and also wearables and application service running on such devices, right? Now when it comes to mobile devices, it's I said tablets and mobile device. I mean, mobile phones are not only the mobile devices, but the wearables with with have like I mean wearables with interface. I mean the interface is there, and also there are some mobile devices without even an interface, right? AirPods, maybe this Google glasses also. These are also mobile devices. Because why we say these mobile devices is the mobility, right? This is in this ubiquitous computing age, we use mobile devices because while we are you can while we are on the go, we can use the computers. So those are the computers we call is mobile devices actually, right? So designing experiences for these particular devices is pretty much, I mean, it's a huge concern because nowadays, if you see this chart, waves of computing chart, I mean, this ubiquitous computing model is going up upward trends, right? Rather than PCs, in the earlier stages, PC usage compared to the mobile device usage, it's rising, right? It means people are using much more and more mobile devices, right? If they are using that much of mobile devices, we have a quite a good of market for our applications as well. But the fact is, even we have this kind of a usage of mobile devices and applications. All applications are not succeeding in this red ocean actually, right? That is because mobile devices are part of the experience of I mean day to day life of a human being, right? That's the concern we need to have as product designers, product engineers, right? So because of that, we as engineers we need to build the perfect application that aligns with the right experiences of their day to day life of the human being, right? So now, as I said, mobile devices are tablets, mobile phones, and smartwatches and stuff like these. The usage is very fluid, right? It's used under different circumstances of a human life, right? It may be outside, not like PCs. PCs are always like in I mean we keep the PCs in a particular place to use, right? We are stationary when we are using that, but not mobile devices. We use the mobile devices on the go, right? So it's a fluid experience. So it's in under UX design, why there is a I mean umbrella term called mobile UX design is that is because of that. It's a fluid because of that fluid experience. We as product designers we need to consider that those devices in separate as well because mobile devices are often used for like if you recall how you are using the mobile, I mean mobile app, mobile phone inside those apps, how we are using. You don't use mobile apps to do some heavy work, right? I mean, some might be doing video productions and stuff like that, but that is not the case for every user. I mean, everyday user will use to check stuff or do a small simple task which helps that particular user to get some small work done, right? Uh, let's say, and as an example, you will be using the mobile application to, I mean, mobile application to hail and taxi, right? That's that's the most common task, like a simple task, and some food, like you will order some food, some kind of stuff like that, right? So mobiles are not used for heavy tasks like that, unlike we do stuff in PC, right? So what are the critical components of mobile UX in that case, right? Just like in the main components in user experience design, mobile user experience design is also considering these three main components, which is accessibility, efficiency, and discoverability, right? Now, why accessibility is there? Because if you see the mobile screen, right, mobile devices, you are not having much of the input types that a person with disabilities can use, right? So, I mean, because of that, I mean, and the disabled people are not using this, I mean, mobile devices, they use, right? They use mobile devices because they also have the need of using, achieving the mobility with computing, right? So, accessibility is a key part, and efficiency is another key part in mobile, because if your application is not that much efficient, your application, mobile application, will not be used by the user. Now, in the most cases in enterprises, enterprise application design, what happens is, if you recall what your customer says, right, get the web version, exact web version into mobile, right? They don't they don't ask questions why we need to get entire thing to mobile. Will the users will use the entire application that we see in the web as same as like the mobile? They don't ask that questions, and because of that bulkiness, the efficiency, you will lose the efficiency, right? That's how customers thinks. That's where user experience designers have to come up and say, no, no, it's not, it should not be like that. If you don't have a UX design in your product, right, product engineering team, even you can ask these questions, whether from the customer, whether your decisions will pay off, because mobile is used for a specific reason, right? Mobile may use to extend the functionality of the web, but not to use, I mean, no, it will be not, mobile application will be not used to give the functionality of exact same in the desktop or the web experiences, right? So these are three I mean, key critical components of this mobile UX design. So, as I said, considering these things, there are few differences when it comes to mobile UX design, right? Between desktop UX design and mobile UX design, right? Because I said mobiles are not only mobile devices; it's also wearables as well, right? Because of some constraints, we tend to differentiate mobile design and desktop design in two different ways, right? We have to consider that because we have the size concerns, especially the screen real estate is very small, and it's a one window kind of a view when it comes to mobile, right? Now, in a computer, think about, I mean, recall how many tabs in Chrome browser you actually opens, right? You can multitask in desktop much, right? Although you, I mean, we say the mobile devices that now we have, the evolvement that we have, we can actually do multitasking. But if you think thoroughly, when you take an application, you do task one at a time, right? One screen at a time, you see in a mobile devices, right? So because of that is because of already it's happening because of the size of the screen size, right? And also the devices itself, it's very smaller. If you take an smartwatch, right, it's a pretty small screen, right? That's where the differences come in. And if you study more in the watches, right, this how that UI interactions have been mapped to cater your needs, right? You don't have much screen real estate, right? That's a main difference in mobile design. So that's what you have to keep on your mind about the screen size. And that is another reason why your customer or your product, I mean, when you are preparing the requirement, you can't exactly map your requirement, one to one mapping to your requirement to the mobile, right? There's a concept called adaptive design versus responsive design, right? What responsive design will do is exactly taking the media queries into consideration and change the website or the web app without changing the layout, the information hierarchy, without changing much of the design, the look and feel of that particular product. What it does is it adjusts the screen size and stack the layout. That's only what a responsive design will do. But an adaptive design will, if you take an example as a progressive web application, it will adapt to the uh, particular scenarios of these screens, mobile screen and also web screens, right? It will customize the layout. You can actually program the layout to act as a mobile device and proper mobile design specifically. So size, screen size is the key thing that differs from normal web desktop UX design or the UI designs versus actually the mobile designs, right? And unlike, I mean, unlike the desktop application for a normal use, I mean, I of course know for a developer, you can rotate your screen, right? If you have this rotatable monitor arm, you can change your screen, but it's not the case for the particular user, a normal user, right? Compared to an expert user. Uh, the mobile devices are the only way, I mean, only time that we see the screen orientation, right? And tablets as well. You have the horizontal or the vertical orientation, right? So we have to design our applications, right, for these orientations as well. And also we need to know whether people need that particular screen orientation as well. If not, we are not providing these two types of screen orientations, right? If you recall an experience that you already have is games, mobile games, right? It doesn't rotate to the vertical position, right? It asks us to rotate your screen to horizontal, or it automatically does. And users are also trained to automatically to orient the screen like that horizontally, right? So this is another reason we need to consider which orientation the users need our applications, right? You can actually provide the functionality like when you release the lock screen, I mean screen orientation lock, you can actually give the functionality to uh, work this application under horizontally, but you have to have a design in hand in that situation, right? Because of vertical orientation, you did a design that doesn't match with the horizontal orientation of that particular screen. So let's say if your product, I mean, in your product, you are supporting these two types of screen orientations, you need to ask as developers when you are designing, I mean, you are implementing the design, you have to ask the designers to give the horizontal design as well if you are having that particular requirement. But if it's not, it's better to lock that screen orientation, because you can see the facts. I mean, 94% of the user base, right, is uh, preferring the vertical orientation of the screen, right? But if you have a requirement that your client asks, I mean, your user base, not your client, your user base requires this particular application to be used in horizontal orientation as well, you have to design that elements and the layout, the text copies, all those things in that particular screen orientation method as well, right? And the next thing is when you are, I mean, making the site responsive versus we are actually designing designing a mobile application, you need to have this. I mean, you need to know, everyone in the product team should know this. What are these called? I mean, these are the heat map of thumb zones, right? This is where if you a user is using the mobile from using one single hand, this is the thumb, your thumb zone, right? This is, you have to place the buttons around these natural and these zones, right? This is where people are easily to that is why a reason the primary action buttons, if you recall using some other applications, everybody is having the uh, primary actions button around this area, right? Exactly around this area, right? And also that is, I mean, if you can recall what Android material design provide, there's a back button here, right? But if you get some iPhones, it also provides a back button as well as this area. If you swipe this particular area, because the natural area for, I mean, thumb to reach, thumb can't reach this one, this particular area. Thumb naturally can reach this particular area and this particular area. So that's why they have this swipe gesture to go back and make it easier to go back to the application. I mean, to the previous pages, right? So as product engineers, you need to know these thumb zones as well, because every every manufacturer is giving this data. I mean, what is this doing these tests, exact thumb areas that you have to follow in the guidelines, right? And then, I mean, that's another reason why there's a specific subject called mobile UX design, right? This this falls into the usability part of that, right? Because if you, I mean, if you lay out your application, check whether these your primary actions, your action buttons are falling under these heat maps, the thumb zones, right? And also there's a this is a, I mean, third one is the navigation and input types, right? That is where most of the application fails. Mobile applications fails because if you can see this the example in the left side, right? We have a zip code. Zip code contains, I mean, a number only input, but we are giving, because we have mapped the exact requirement, one-to-one requirement from the web. We give the users the keyboard, the full keyboard, not the numerical pad, right? That is something wrong we are doing, right? If we are, I mean, the user is required to give a number input, just give the number pad actually, right? That's the easiest way that users can interact with this particular input field, right? And users expect these things because of the heuristics. Heuristics means, I mean, they have, I mean, you guys, we, everyone have who has used the mobile devices and have used the other applications, they know how to use an application, because the other applications, when you compare with another application, they are giving us these kind of a input. In particular, I mean, they're adapting. This is what I call adaptive design. If that particular input type is a numerical input, just give them this, the right relevant input type, right? If it's a date input, give the calendar. Not don't give the entire keyboard again, because of, I mean, for the sake of the easiness of development, right? And also, you don't have to, as a developer, I think, the library itself is providing that features, right? So enable those things when you are providing a mobile application, right, to make it the better best experiences, right? And also, about this navigation, if you can see, I mean, what you are seeing the left side is, it's a mobile app, but it has this more and more buttons, right? So you don't have to give those things. Now check whether when you are driving, I mean, when you're driving and the car, and you are using the Google Maps, they limit the buttons, right? And if you listen to audiobooks, they limit the buttons. Like, it's adapting to that particular scenario and giving the user the best screen option in that particular scenario, right? I mean, when you're driving, it doesn't, I mean, any application won't give you more than three buttons, because the main goal in that particular application is to help with driving is the main goal, right? Not, I mean, using your application is the not the main goal, because if you confuse the user at that time, they might actually will find it harder to drive the vehicle as well, right? So always provide easy navigation and adapt the design to the situations. That's the key part when it comes to mobile design versus, I mean, when we compare the mobile designs with desktop designs, right? And use these gestures, right? These are supported by, or always supported by a mobile device. So use this, make use of these gestures, right? Then මන් දැකලා තියෙන දෙයක් තමයි, if you show a screen to a client, and what we do is we hide some actions under some gestures, right? Let's say we are giving the delete button to a mobile application. We don't have to do that, right? We can disclose that it's under a swipe action, right? You see those interaction in other mobile applications, so use them. That will make sure you have the users, I mean, best interests, I mean, accommodated, right? The user's best interest are, I mean, a clean, sleek screen, right? Without much information in mobile, because never a user is expecting in a mobile devices the entire, I mean, cluttered interface that we see in a desktop application. So disclose. You can use this mobile interaction, I mean, the gestures, to do that, right? So that is another key reason. That's why we have to design for mobile separately, right? And also the environments will be very different compared to a PC. PC will be a stationary, I mean, stationary item with an environment which has some lightings, right? Even whether it's a night or day, there might be accommodating with some lightings. But a mobile device, you will use it in outside, right? A bright color environment or dark color environment. So your application need to accommodate that visibility as well, right? The dark modes, the contrast. This is where the accessibility comes in as well, right? So you need to think of those things, right? So I have come up with, I mean, I have went through why the mobile design is have to do, I mean, done separately. So I'll give you guys some tips for designing as well, because this is another vast subject, right? The first tip I would give you is, please follow the guidelines that have given in the two environments, right? The current two mobile, the marketable environments are iOS and Android, right? Even for a web, I mean, wearable device, you have the watch OS when it comes to Apple products, right? And when it comes to Android products, they are a wearable OS as well, right? They have done the research previously, and they have given you guys exact the guideline to not to break them. If you break them, the experience of that wearable device or the mobile device will be broken as well. So stick to the guidelines if you don't have a UX designer or a consultant in your product design team, right? That's the easiest way to tackle this separate mobile use experience design, right? And please focus on the target audience, right? Let's take and stock taking application, right? Stock management application, inventory management application. uh, think about the stock manager, right? He will be using the desktop to get some reports, but to take some stock, they will use the mobile application, right? Let's say I mean, the biggest example we know is actually taxi application, a taxi hailing application. A driver will using another application, because another screen layout as well, because they are in outside, they are drivers, right? They are driving as well, and they are that can be night or day as well. So please target on the audience. That's why we call this as user experience design as well, because this is not client experience design. This is not actually what your client asking. This should be, the product should be, you should give the exact need of the users, right? So focus on the target audience, and you need to have clear, simple, and good content. Think about the text copy. If you are using a particular a bigger sentence in the desktop application, make it smaller for exactly to match the mobile design, right? You can't use the same content that you have written to the web application. So that's another tip that you can follow, right? You need to consider about the font sizes. If you have the guideline set up, a typography guideline in your product, you have to have mobile typography separately, desktop typography separately. That's how you have to manage the font sizes, right? And two types of sorry, image sizes as well, right? And even if your desktop application is less speed, you have to do whatever it takes to make your mobile application fast as much as possible, right? Because people will not use your mobile application entire day, unlike a social media application, right? So people are staying much of the time, spending much of the time on the social media application, but not some utility applications, right? So make sure your application is speed, test for image sizes, font sizes as well, right? And the fourth tip is provide a simple navigation. Use the gestures to do the navigation, because users will know, right? Your client will say you can't. Users will be hard. Users might will harder to understand if you don't provide a button for everything, right? That's not the case in mobile. It's a different feel. So use the gestures, provide a simple navigation that will make that particular experience for the user a pleasurable one, right? And use the guess, I mean, I said touch controls and stuff like that, use it. You don't always have to provide the keyboard for every input, right? Yeah, as you can see this example, it's a date picker, right? But it's not a conventional date picker like we see in the desktop application. So use the gestures, the touch controls that the application the environment has provided already, right? And please use less forms input. If you take the entire banking industry, banking applications that you see now in Sri Lanka, it doesn't make sense, right? If you have much bigger forms, get the data step by step. Use a wizard, right? Don't make the users to scroll the form or fill this entire screen with form elements only, right? And as I said, take care of the thumb positions, right? If you can see this particular example you see in the left side, that is a particular interaction to search, right? So user have to click the search, go focus that area and type. But unlike that, this is the red zone for that. So use these green zones, to design your application, right? So those are the tips, and these are small tips that you can use when you are designing for mobile application as well. And also while testing, please consider these things as well, because the mobile design is a different feel compared to a web designing, right? And also please be mindful that your design, if you are doing that mobile design, that design should be adaptive to circumstances that a user particularly face, right? So analyze those tasks, analyze that focus group, what they are doing in background while you are using your product actually, right? So yeah, that's some of the few stuff that we have to consider when doing mobile designing, right?